Kenny doesn't. He's the overseer, but Eileen has been really doing the producing because Kenny's been teaching the class because they got brand new equipment in here and everything. So he's gonna go do what he does. Make sure you don't curse because this is going on the DVD. This is gonna go on YouTube, even though we didn't get started yet. This is like our pre-game, what have you. Shout out to all these folks out there. This is not part of the show yet. We're getting ready to get started. We got Dan the Man on the line. But yeah, Richard Sherman. Dan the Man, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, Richard Sherman and all that nonsense, man. I mean, it's crazy, man.
They wanted it, basically, he was in the heat of the moment. The only problem I have is, the timing of it. Because if you watched it, about 2 or 3 hours later, Richard Sherman was up there with a panel. He was very articulate, So, it was the heat of the moment. It would have been like that if, other ball players, got the mic in their face after a big play like that. How could you be articulate? Your adrenaline is flowing. So I just didn't like the way the people on Twitter was calling him a thug and calling him the N-word, and
it's definitely got racial overtones to it. Because they're saying John McEnroe could talk like that, or other people could talk like that, and you don't get that same kind of backlash.
Well, this country
Rex Ryan does his thing on TV. Mark Gastineau played here. You never hear. Mark Gastineau was the biggest talker for the Jets back in the days. You never heard none of this nonsense.
Well, the problem with this country is, racism exists in this country. So, it's all right when a black ball player plays, on the field or in an arena, he's equal. But when he's not in that arena, if he's not playing the game, that's why I've noticed, like on talk radio, is very, you got a lot of prejudiced people on these talk radio shows because they basically, have their racial viewpoints, because it seems like when a black athlete talks, they said, why don't this guy shut up and play the game? They don't want you to say anything. They feel that, you got to be in your place. You got to know your place. That's why it still has race. Racism still exists in this country. If you don't believe it, look at the president of the United States, what he has to go through.
Yeah, just blame the black guy. When something goes wrong, just blame the black guy. We got 16 seconds left? 13, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Welcome to another segment of Hardcore Sports. So glad you joined us for another segment of Hardcore Sports. Shout out to Dan the Man. What's the deal, Dan the Man?
Hey, what's up?
What's going on? Eileen's not here with us, but we'll say go Eli for Eileen. Today is her birthday, so shout out to all the Aquariuses. Actually, Eileen Hanlon, one of our executive producers, shares a birthday with Bob Sumner. Dan knows Bob Sumner, right, Dan the Man? You remember Bob?
Yeah.
Bob Sumner. For those who don't know Bob Sumner, he's behind all of the black comedians. So if you see Def Comedy Jam, he's got his own show on HBO. I think it's called Laugh Mob or Showtime. I think he's got a show on Showtime or some other networks. He's big. He's like the man you have to see before you get involved on that stage, before you get involved in comedy. And I'm not saying it's all black comics, but most of the black, not just black comics. He doesn't just deal with black comedians, even though they are mostly black. But if you want to be a comedian and you're trying to hit that demographic, Bob Sumner is big time. Today is his birthday as well. So shout out to Bob Sumner. Definitely, he was the executive producer of all those Def Comedy Jams. Go check it out. And he does other stuff. Shaquille O'Neal does a lot of comedy shows, and even Adrian Peterson now has got into the comedy thing now too. So shout out to Bob Sumner and all that. Today is his birthday. Also, Alicia Keys. Alicia Keys' birthday is today. Happy birthday to Alicia Keys. She's been on Action Videos, our show, our other show that we do here. Actually, we're celebrating 20 years this year. In October, we'll keep you informed. We're gonna plan to have some 20-year festivities this year. We've been on the air with Action Videos for 20 years. So we thank everybody for their support, especially CTV. We did everything, a lot of the things out of the studio here. We edited for years out of here, and this has been our home base for 20 years. So we'll be celebrating that sometime September, October, and maybe even some stuff might be in the summertime. We might have a number of different festivities associated with our 20-year anniversary of Action Videos. So shout out to Kenny Graham, executive producer, the other executive producer, and he's got his Kenneth Paul Studios and everything that's going on. So you want to check him out at Kenneth Paul Media at Twitter, and but there's a lot of stuff going on. Dan and I were talking about behind the scenes. We have this Richard Sherman situation with the San Francisco Seattle Seahawks game. We have a situation now where folks are just going crazy on Twitter. This Sherman was fined over $7,000 for his antics, and we also have the new king. I'm holding up Dan the Man. I'm holding up the Daily News. The Daily News has 62 on the front page. It has 62. Carmelo breaks Knicks season game scoring record. So I don't think it's an MSG thing. Dan will explain. Dan the Man, can you explain to us what's going on as far as Madison Square Garden goes? Dan is a historian when it comes to some of the sports history. What's going on? Who scored the most points in Madison Square Garden history, Dan?
Wilt Chamberlain.
And how many points did he score?
Scored 73.
73 points. You know the year around, or?
Well, you go to Basketball Reference. See, there was different Madison Square Garden. So, listening to the news and everything, nobody does research. They said, Melo has the scoring record at Madison Square Garden. He has the scoring record at the new Madison Square Garden, 8th Avenue and 33rd Street. But you had other Madison Square Gardens, where, guys came in and scored a lot of points. Like Elgin Baylor scored 71 points at the old Madison Square Garden.
Well, listen, don't get it twisted. I watched that game. And MSG is crazy. They've been running, last night after the game, they ran Knicks at 60, which went from 11 to 12. Then they repeated the game from 12 to 2. They ran this game all night. So they're pushing this game. But don't get it twisted. Melo was pulled with 7 minutes and change. 7.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Woodson could have left Melo in for the rest of the game. He could have scored 70 now. Let's not get it twisted. Melo could have scored 20. But the thing that's most remarkable, one of the things that's most remarkable about this Melo scoring record, listen, we won't put MSG. We'll just put it the way the Daily News has it. Knicks season single game scoring record. Let's put it like that. He scored higher than Bernard King, which Bernard King scored 60, and he scored more than Marbury. Marbury had 50 one game, 50 plus. I don't want to quote the particular numbers, but Marbury had 50 and I think 12 assists in one game. Patrick Ewing scored 50. Allen Houston scored 50. I'm just going from my own recollection. Dan could chime in if he wants to. Jamal Crawford, I remember scoring 50 as a Knick. I'm not sure if he did it at Madison Square Garden, but I think Jamal Crawford scored 50 as a Knick. So, am I missing anybody, Dan, that scored 50 as Knicks?
Yeah, Richie Guerin had 57.
Richie Guerin. Well, I wasn't. I don't think I was even born then. I might have been 1 year old or something like that. But yeah, Richie Guerin. I was just going by recent memory. But Dan is a historian, so he knows. So we got Richie Guerin that scored 50 plus. So you just put Carmelo Anthony in that crew, and he has scored the highest as a Knick. Forget the Garden. He scored the highest as a Knick. So yeah, shout out to Melo. I watched the game at least twice, and it's just amazing. The big thing was the buzzer beater. He hoisted up a half court buzzer beater, which gave him 37 points at the half. So Melo is an amazing player. The problem with the Knicks is he just does not have a quality team around him. And for all the Knick haters and all the people who've been pushing the Knicks to get rid of Carmelo Anthony, the Knicks have to build a team around him. He needs another consistent scorer to put around him. And if you've seen, basically, if you watch these games, if you watch the Knicks as much as I do, if you're not just a casual guy who listens to the radio every now and then and catches a piece of a game every month or once a week or whenever you can, that's not good enough. You have to watch the Knicks hardcore. That's why we call ourselves Hardcore Sports. I watch the Knicks religiously, and they just don't have the pieces around Melo. They don't have the pieces around Melo. You can compare Melo to LeBron James all you want, but LeBron James has got Wade and Bosh. And if you look at that team in Miami this year, they are stacked with players. They are stacked. They've got Beasley. They've got Udonis Haslem. They've got a whole bunch of guys down there, down in Miami to help LeBron be the type of player. Listen. You just compare the Miami Heat's. Let's just take Melo and LeBron out the equation, and you just compare what the Heat are and what the Knicks are. The Knicks look like a D-League team. I'm trying to be serious. I'm really trying to be serious now. This is serious. If you compare the Knicks or any other team, you take their superstar off their team and you want to compare, even let's take a look at the San Antonio Spurs. You take Tim Duncan off that team and you take Melo off the Knicks, just compare the Knicks to the San Antonio Spurs. There's no comparison. So, and everybody wants to blame Melo. Oh, he's a ball hog. He's this and that. He's blah, 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 blah. It's Melo's fault. It's not Melo's fault. He's got a bunch of scrubs. Or I don't want to say that. There are professionals, but they're not the caliber players that you would want for a championship team. Even the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets now, Dan is our Brooklyn Nets correspondent, and he could give us more detail. The Brooklyn Nets now are 9-1 right now, right? They're 9-1
for January.
For January, they've won 9 out of their last 10. And with the thing about the Nets is there's no clear cut, as far as I'm concerned, especially with Lopez out. To me, there doesn't seem to be a clear cut superstar on the Nets. But you've got better players. If you look at the Nets players compared to the Knicks players, there's basically no comparison. You've got Garnett and Pierce, Deron Williams, and Joe Johnson, and you got Karolinko. I mean, those 5 players are better than anybody on the Knicks besides Melo.
How about last night? Mirza Teletovic scores 34 points.
Yeah, you got a guy come. Listen, there's nobody. I don't think I besides Melo. I don't think there's anybody on the Knicks that has eclipsed 30 points this year.
Not JR?
No, I think JR had 24 just recently. JR had 24 points, like either this week or last week. He had 24 points in a loss. And that was his season high. That was his season. Yeah, JR has been horrible this year as far as scoring because of the injury and the weed smoking and the benching by Woodson. J.R. Smith has been disgustingly bad. And you know, I like JR, but he's been disgustingly bad this year. He's been disgustingly bad.
What about the 2 busts?
Bargnani?
Yeah, him, and also Meta World Peace.
Meta World Peace hasn't been up to par either. The only guy that scored 20, Iman Shumpert scored 27. One time. Against the Heat. No one on the Knicks. I'm telling you now. Like I just said, I watch the Knicks religiously. I check out every box score, everything. Nobody, no player on the Knicks besides Melo has eclipsed 30 points this year. Nobody. Bargnani is in the 20s, scored maybe 24 or maybe, I think maybe his season high is maybe 22 or 24, maybe 26 at the highest. I don't know for sure, but he has not scored 30. I met Iman Shumpert, 27 points was his season high this year, and that was against the Heat. What's his name? Junior. Tim Hardaway Jr. He scored 20 something. And he's showing flashes of he's actually probably the best player on the scorer besides Melo. So as far as percentage-wise, he's got a pretty decent field goal percentage. But he's erratic. He's a rookie. He's not there yet. But he's probably the second best scorer on the Knicks. And that's a horrible indictment. If Tim Hardaway Jr., who just got here, who's a rookie, is the best scorer next to Melo on a team full of veterans, that's an indictment on the Knicks. It's an indictment on the Knicks. But yeah, no one, Dan, not near nobody has, besides Melo, has scored 30 plus. Yeah. And I hate to say it, I'm a Knicks fan. I hate to say this stuff about my team. They're the Knicks. But at this point, they got a bunch of garbage players. Hate to say it. I hate it. I hate to say it. But they got a bunch of garbage players this year. I don't know what happened. Chandler's starting to break down. He's not what he started breaking down last year. So when we went into the playoffs with Indiana, he was not 100%. And then he started this season at sitting out. I don't know how many games Chandler sat out, but he hasn't been the same, And Stoudemire, who's injured now, is going to be out. He's gotten better this year. I think he's better this year. Stoudemire is better this year than he was last year. He's shown real flashes. This is the best I've seen Stoudemire play, but he's still with his great play, he still hasn't eclipsed 30 points. And that's what Melo needs. You don't need somebody to do it every night, but you can't depend on Melo to score 30 every night, even though he can. But listen, if we had somebody like that, if we had a second superstar who can score 30 plus a night, we wouldn't have these types of problems. We would not have these types of problems with the Knicks. And it's sad. This guy goes out every night. If you go out and you look at Melo's numbers this year, he goes out every night and he gives you 110%, and all you hear on the radio is the nonsense about trade Melo. Are you nuts? The Knicks have to do better. I mean, with the salary cap the way it is, they're hamstrung. There's not much they can do, but it is what it is.
Well, you know what? In a way, they have to get creative. I don't know what Mills is doing. I can use some examples. The Nets, they way over the cap, and they made a trade. See, they don't have no first round draft picks until 2017 or 18, but they acquired Marquise Teague from Chicago. He's only 20 years old. Everybody remembers him on that team with Anthony Davis, Gilchrist, and Terrence Jones, that Kentucky team that was 38-2, and he won the NCAA championship. I mean, the Nets kind of got creative and got him on the team. So now they got like a third point guard, a guy that Jason Kidd, Darren Williams, and Livingston can help. And then they, with their recent trade of trading Tyshawn Taylor to the Pelicans, they opened up a roster spot, so, and plus they can use a $5.5 million player exception because of Lopez's injury. There's things that the Knicks could do if they really want to be creative, because they got players, but, the problem with the Knicks is it's like, how you going to keep Melo here? That's the big question. I mean, they can make deals, but Melo wants another superstar player. Melo wants to win a championship, so it kind of gets iffy with him. It's like, what does he want? Does he want a championship? Do he have to go to another team for it, or does he want to stay with the Knicks, get a long-term deal, and just get the money? So,
I think he wants a championship. I think this type of performance, you can't trade Melo after this. The Knicks will look like fools if they trade this guy after this.
Well, you know what? A lot of players, kind of do stuff like this as a going away party. They say, hey, thanks for I'm going to leave you with a memory. It's kind of weird how he scored 62 points, because he could have did it on any other occasions if he wanted to, but somehow, with a 5-game losing streak, playing a team like Charlotte, he comes out and scores 62 points
with Patrick Ewing on the other side, on the other bench.
Yeah, so I don't know what is his, what's he going to do next? Is that it? Is that a going away party to bring about memories to Knicks fans that, hey, he scored 62 points. He finally broke Bernard King's record, and they won a game, compared to Bernard King when he scored 60 to, the Nets beat the Knicks by 4 points. But, it's good. But I'm looking at it like, is this it for Melo? Does he know that he's going to be out of here by the trade deadline? So he want to make sure that he puts his stamp
on a record before he goes.
Right.
He want to make his last hurrah, like you would say. He'll make his last hurrah before he makes his final. This is like his final curtain call.
Right.
Well, we'll see. The trade deadline now. We're getting close to the trade deadline, because I think the trade deadline is like sometime the third week in February. So, and February begins in another week or two. So we're about a month away from the trade deadline. So, or a little less. Probably about 3.5 weeks from the trade deadline. I don't even know exactly when it is, but it's probably around February 22nd or something like that. I don't know. I have to look it up. I don't want to say for sure, but I know it's somewhere in February, in the 20s. February 20 something is the NBA trade deadline. But yeah, you bring up a good point. You're really bringing up a good point. I mean, Melo could literally be gone. This might be his last hurrah, and it isn't a fine time now. It's in a particular time right before the All-Star break and right before the trade deadline, and But listen, the rumors have been out there. Melo for Blake Griffin. I don't think we're going to be able to get into this Richard Sherman. Next week is the Super Bowl, so we'll talk about maybe that whole Richard Sherman thing would have died down by then anyway. I doubt it. But the whole talk this week was Richard Sherman. But the whole talk about Melo now was being traded for Blake Griffin. And, you know, Melo could literally go out to the Clippers and win a championship with Chris Paul. He could literally go out there. They will become a more complete team because the Clippers have their problems. I mean, they're a good team, but Melo will make the Clippers a great team. Melo will fill in what they need because the Clippers have two players that play the same. They get rid of Blake. The Knicks get Blake. The Knicks go younger. And the Knicks will probably get Blake Griffin and Jamal Crawford in that deal. So you never know what's going to happen here. And then you hear trades for Stoudemire, for Rajon Rondo. I don't even know. Have you been following Rondo at all? Has his game picked up? Because I haven't really been following Rondo, Dan. I know he came back. I don't know if he came back to what he was doing before.
Yeah, he's slowly. He's come back slowly. Also, Danny Ainge is quoted as saying that if he trade Rondo, he won't trade him to a team in the Eastern Conference. It'll be mostly the West Coast.
But yeah, I think Dan picked the Clippers to win this year with the team that they have. The Clippers have a good team. They have Doc Rivers. Melo would be the missing piece for them to win a championship.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah, Melo would be the missing piece without a doubt.
Because what they're trying to do, they're trying to make Blake Griffin into a scorer, more like Melo, to try to score 25 to 30 points a game. But, you're going to have a stumbling block, at some point with Blake Griffin, because he's not a consistent jump shooter. Melo has the entire game, so you can count on him to score 25 and 30 points. And it takes a lot of pressure off a guy like Chris Paul, to try to win games. Because the thing with Blake Griffin, he doesn't win games. He's not a type of player that's going to hit a big shot and win a game. Chris Paul is mostly the big shot guy. But Chris Paul wants to be the distributor at times and let a guy like a Melo win games and set him up. So that would be good if Carmelo Anthony can get himself onto the Clippers roster. I was reading that it's going to be kind of tough for him to do that still, with a trade because everything got a match. And from what I was reading, the Clippers, they said they don't want to give up Blake Griffin.
Well, they have two players in DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin who play the same.
Well,
who are guys who are just above the rim type of guys, Lob City and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, but
I think it's really going to go down, though. I mean, unfortunately, Dan, you might be right with this last hurrah theory.
Well,
because Melo's been here for like 2 or 3 years now. He's never put up 62. So this might be, you're right, this might be his going away present saying, goodbye, thanks for the memories.
Yeah, because, the Knicks could just scrap the team. They could trade Melo, tell Woodson that he's going to walk at the end of the year, let him walk.
He's in the last year of his deal anyway,
right,
Woodson.
Right. I don't know what they're going to do with JR, Meta World Peace. They were trying to trade Meta World Peace and JR to Toronto for Lowry, and Toronto's talking about getting a draft pick, which the Knicks don't really have. So what are they going to do with those guys? The misfit, I call it, those two guys, because it seems it seems that everything started, believe it or not, before the season, people were saying that the Knicks will win like 50 plus games with the squad they have, but it seems like when they brought Meta World Peace into the locker room, it seems like it has divided J.R. Smith and Woodson. Because if you notice, every game, J.R. Smith is sitting right next to Meta World Peace. And I don't know what Meta World Peace is telling J.R. because it seems like he doesn't have that bond like he once had with Woodson. It's not there no more.
Well, I think it's, I think at the beginning of the season, and I stated this before, that when Melo came out and said he wanted to test free agency, it led me to believe that, they were going to trade him. The Knicks are the type of organization, they're not going to allow Melo to just walk out of here and not get nothing for him. They will not, it has not been their practice in the past to let any player, not just Melo, any player, just walk out and not, especially a superstar. You think at the end of the season the Knicks are going to want Dolan is going to not even allow, is going to want Melo to be sitting with this one and that one and leave the Knicks like LeBron left Cleveland? No, that's not the Knicks way. The Knicks way is to trade them by the trade deadline and get whatever you can, and hopefully another superstar in return.
Now,
and what?
You think Mills can get it done? Because really, they brought in Mills to try to keep Melo. You think Mills would try to trade Carmelo Anthony?
I think Mills was brought in here to figure it out, to get rid of Melo, not get rid of Melo, to get the right piece. Because I think what happened was, listen, Melo could be signed to an extension at any time. Carmelo Anthony can be signed. Kobe Bryant is injured. He just signed an extension for $48 million. So Melo could sign a 5-year extension if he wants to anytime. So you don't hear any money crossing Melo's table, and I believe talks between Melo and his people, I think that's why Gunwall was put aside, and they brought a whole new face in to be a whole new face of the Knicks for the future. Mills is going to be the guy to rebuild this team once all of these guys come off the books in 2015. But we've run out of time, man. This has been a good conversation. Yo, hit us up on Twitter. DJ Mills at Twitter. DeeJaymillz. Also, you can watch us on live stream at the same DJ Mills at live stream. If you missed the shows, you can watch us at Mills Action Videos at YouTube. Next week will be our Super Bowl episode, so you don't want to miss it. See you next week. Peace. Yo, hold on a minute.
All right.